Ladies and gentlemen, wow, oh wow, episode 7 of From Season 4 was absolutely jam-packed. It was such an incredible episode and kept me on the edge of my freaking seat, toes, whatever you call it, the whole time, and I can't wait to dive into this breakdown with you. I have no idea how it's going to be that I'm going to be having to hold this in for a period of time without talking about it. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I'm a blabbermouth as it is, so it's hard to keep my mouth shut, but oh my Lanta, I loved every bit of this. If you're new around here, what we do is we're going to break down the episode scene by scene, starting right now, because I have a feeling we're going to be here for a bit. With scene 1, we pick up right where that insane cliffhanger left off with Boyd finding the door in Colony House. We're left, by the way, with some big things on the table. Yes, Donna breathed and came back a little bit at the end of last episode, but waiting to figure out what happened there was crazy. And just so you guys kind of understand this, when I got these screeners, I got episode 6, and then I had to wait a long time, and I didn't even know I was going to be getting 7 and 8. But like one time, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, I think it might have been 2 weeks later, I got this episode. So I thought what was going to happen was I was going to get 6 and then wait until 7 came out publicly to see. I had no idea I was going to get it. So when I got it, I was like, oh my God. But I was waiting on that cliffhanger. I thought they were going to be giving us like a Donna thing, where like she came back and then she went south again. You know what I mean? I was very concerned about that, but I'm glad we got to that. Again, this is going to be spoilers. We're going to dive into every scene. I don't want to get too much into that right now, but I have to address that up front. I was genuinely worried that they weren't going to do that and it was going to take a turn for the worst. Thank God, seems like Donna's in the clear based off of this episode. But without further ado, let's jump right in. As I mentioned, we pick up right where it left off with episode 6, where Boyd discovers the door in the basement of the Colony House, proving that Jade's trip and his hallucination was real. And we see it pick up right away where Randall, he's at the door trying to figure out how to like break it open. And Jade walks in and as he's doing this and asks if Randall had any luck with it. Randall explains that he hasn't, and he's just insisting that he's going to break it down. But Jade mentions that if it's sealed, it's probably for the best. So they stop doing it and put a talisman on the door saying just in case. But like, bro, you're just realizing that? Like, why were you trying to break in the first place? You're realizing it now as he's doing it? Like, wait, let's not break down this door? No fucking shit, you don't want to break down this door. Wait a minute, Jade. You are the one who discovered that door leads to the fucking bones. You discovered it. We know for a fact this town listens to people, clearly. Like, do you remember when Boyd was in the church yelling about how the town's not going to break him, but no one was there? So how would the monsters eventually come back saying you said the town wasn't going to break it? You know what I mean? Like, bro, this town is listening to you. You're telling me you didn't think about it until like as he mentions he's going to break it down when he was already trying to break it down, that you shouldn't put it on. Whatever. Anyway, I'm getting a little too heated, but I'm glad they put the talisman on the door. Anyway, we got proof. Talismans don't work this episode, with the end of the episode, which is crazy. It's a crazy big ass reveal. I know that's related to the nightmares, and I know Tabitha says that that's the case. We're going to get to it. I'm rambling a little bit because I had to bring that up. Anyway, after this, we're just going to get to it, okay? Don't worry about what I just said there with the thing. Whatever. After this, we see Boyd in Colony House wondering where Henry is. And then Kenny and Henry, as Boyd's talking to Kenny, they find Henry, who is stumbling in drunkenly after the events of last episode where Sophia put her blood in the drink of Henry's. Now he comes back drunk from that encounter. They find him, and Boyd wants to talk to him ASAP, even though he's drunk, because Boyd asks him to go upstairs so they could talk about everything that's unfolded. In this episode, one of the things I love before we even get to these reveals, this episode, finally, for the first time I think in the whole show, is people in a room talking. Now, mind you, what we didn't get and we came close to, we almost got like blue-balled by it, I guess, for lack of a better word, is Julie. Julie just missed the conversation about the man in yellow. Julie had already seen the man in yellow. Like, we just missed that when Victor walked in. We're going to get to it. I know I'm bouncing around. I'm just very excited, guys. Anyway, Henry and Boyd go upstairs to talk with him and Victor and all of that stuff, because Boyd's explaining that he has something that he wants to tell them before the whole rest of the town town talks. Anyway, after this, we cut back to Tabitha, and she's in her room and she's going through Jim's belongings. She starts crying, and then Ethan comes in saying that sometimes he looks through stuff of his too. And Ethan says that Julie's home, and Tabitha says, let's go talk. So as that happens, the scene cuts to them in the kitchen where Julie picks up that they're talking about the giant dolls that they had discovered out in the settlement. So she's questioning it, and Ethan explains that Tabitha is the one that killed it, and then she stabbed it with the voodoo totem or whatever. And Julie asks how she knew that it would work, and Tabitha explains finally to Ethan and Julie that it was because she had a dream, or I think a dream, that she remembered when she was a kid, and she finally remembered that that's how to do it here. That's what you got to do. And anyway, then Tabitha comes clean about her being Miranda to Ethan and Julie, which I absolutely love. Tabitha explains that she's been here before many, many times, all the way back to the beginning of this, which I think is an interesting, cool little thing you could have set up for spin-offs, because there's so much you could do with Tabitha's character, seeing her through different things. If we ever get a spinoff, I do genuinely think that's a great avenue to take. But she explains to Miranda that she explains to Ethan and Julie that she was Miranda Victor's mom. And as this is going on, as they're sitting down to talk, it then cuts back to Boyd, who's having a discussion with Henry and Victor. And Henry is not having any of this. Back to my point I made in an earlier breakdown, he is not strong. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see where this goes later. One of my favorite moments in the whole show happens with him later in the episode. But it's really interesting to see. It's continuously interesting to see this sort of change where Henry is the one being weak and Victor's the one being strong, because Henry is apoplectic about all of this stuff that he's learning about Tabitha being Miranda. He doesn't believe it. He doesn't want any part of it. And he doesn't want to accept this insane reality that is this town, because it is an insane reality. It's absolutely freaking nuts that this is going on. Chocolate-covered nuts. You know what I mean? This is really stupid. Anyway, he doesn't want to believe it, so whatever. That happens. But Victor, what I like is he kind of fully understands it, but Victor just tells Boyd that they need to stop. Victor's like, enough, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And then he continues saying that they need to find out more about the man in yellow. Boyd asks, what does the man in yellow have to do with this? And Victor responds, everything. If he's back, it's all happening again, or it can be all happening again, or something like that. And then it cuts to the opening credits. And that's interesting because to me, it's like there is so much there that Victor needs to uncover, like desperately needs to uncover for this group. We're talking about it and we're going to cut to it right now in a second. But this concept of everyone being in a room finally talking about the things that happen, Victor knows these answers. Even if he doesn't think he does in the moment, he has to remember, and he has these episodes, he knows these answers. His PTSD takes him back to these moments when he gets them. And it's very interesting hearing this, because I think what we're building towards is Tabitha and Jade are pushing too close in a way that probably, if I had to guess, hasn't happened before, and the town's going to push back harder. But to that point, if other instances there's been a massacre, they've already gotten to a point like this. So has this happened before? I don't know. Victor seems to think so, because it's all happening again. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, after the credits roll, we cut to Boyd, which is, I think, my favorite moment in the episode. Maybe my favorite. I know I've said a couple things are my favorite moments in the show, but this is such a standout moment, and that's why I love this episode so much. There are like multiple moments in this episode that I think stand out and have a run for the whole show's money. Man, this is a great moment where Boyd's explaining everything they've learned to the whole town and Colony House. Like, everyone's there. Finally, again, they are all in a room talking. And it opens with Bodka asking Jade if being that him and Tabitha have been here before, she's asking if that means that everyone has been here before. And Jade doesn't think that that's how it works. And then Randall gets a little upset about that, saying, what the fuck are we doing here if that's the case? Which is true. Is everyone else just a pawn, or do they have missions too that lead to this larger story? Because, I mean, if you go back to what Kenny says, right? If you go back to what Kenny says, I think in episode 3, when he's talking with Sophia and explains that things all started around Tabitha and Jade coming into town. If you take that at face value, maybe they are the two players and everyone else is just a pawn. But I'd like to believe in my head that everyone is here as a reincarnated version of the people who have been here before. Kind of going back to Marielle's point, I don't know if it's Mari, I don't know, whatever. Going back to her point that this place feeds on people's suffering. I'm really interested to see if that's like a play here. Whatever. Anyway, afterwards, Jade then explains that these children that were sacrificed, they've been crying out to Tabitha and him for help for all these years. And the cry, he thinks, on some level, maybe you heard it too. Like maybe people heard it too. As he's saying all this, it cuts to Sophia and Kenny, but mainly Sophia. And Sophia, that saucy fucking baka, being the man in yellow, is looking at them with some form of concern, and that continues throughout the episode. Oh, God, man, this is the shit I love. It's just a little, I will say it right here. We're in episode 7 at this point in time. I'm a little, like, mixed on the fact that it's taken this long for something pretty big with Sophia's character to happen, which it does later in the episode. I kind of had a feeling going into this season that we were going to get more moments like what happened at the end of this with Roger's character coming in and ripping his face off and shit. And going into season 4, I thought that's where we were going. I'm a little disappointed that it took till episode 7 to get there. But again, to me, this isn't a show that's all about like action or crazy moments. This is about these people in this situation. So it's not the end of the world. I'm glad we finally got here, but I will say my expectations weren't really met with what I thought everything was going to be with the man in yellow coming in and wreaking havoc. I'm just glad it happens now. Sorry, I had to bring that up because I'm talking about Sophia being concerned in this scene. And anyway, after we have Sophia being concerned, Christy cuts Jade off from speaking, saying, like, just humbling everyone, saying this all came from a mushroom trip that Jade had. And Boyd cuts in there saying, like, believe me, I understand, but it's because of the basement door. How could he have known? That was the general gist of what that conversation was. And Christy doesn't want to believe it because it's a mushroom trip. Like, how do you know if any of this is real? But Boyd's, again, explaining he called bullshit on all of this, but how could he have possibly known that door? And then Marielle steps in saying, how do we know that this isn't, like, how is this place, like, it's put a lot of weird shit in people's heads. How do we know if that is one of those things? And Boyd says that he thought of that too. Christy comes in and responds afterwards asking how it's any different. And then Boyd comes in saying it's because of what they did to Jim. That message, knowledge comes at a cost. It's possible that Jim died because of what Tabitha and Jade remembered. Look, he explains that the message was meant to scare them, but he thinks the message tells something else, that they're closer than ever to finding out and figuring out this place. And I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that's what we're setting up for right now. Absolutely. He explains further that when your enemy threatens you and tries to scare you, it means that they're scared of you. And it cuts, as this is going on, to Sophia looking more and more concerned, which is a running theme in this episode. And anyway, Botka then replies back to that saying, and you think digging up the bones of those children could be what gets you home? And Jade replies yes, and as he does, Henry walks in, and Henry is still absolutely apoplectic about what happened upstairs when Boyd was talking to him about all of this. So he comes in, basically being the one speaking now or forever, holding his peace, saying, it's not true! And he's going off, like, freaking out about it, saying, like, what you're doing isn't right. And then Jade goes to chase after Henry, who goes into the kitchen, and Jade catches up, and Henry, whatever. The point I'm making is Jade catches up to Henry and explains to Henry that Miranda was right in what she did. Saving the children is the only way to get home. And Jade explains to Henry that they're trying to finish the mission that his wife started. And Henry replies to that saying that you may think you're helping people, but what is going to happen is going to cause everyone pain, and you can't save dead things no matter how fucking smart you think you are, which is an interesting point. And as this is going on, Boyd catches up to Jade and tells Jade to give Henry some time and that he'll come around to it. But right now they have other shit to do. As this is going, after this scene, we cut to Julie, who is outside, like on the side of her house, and she's smoking a weed bowl. And Tabitha comes outside and catching her in the act. And she explains to Julie that she could smell it through the windows and all of that stuff. And Julie is explaining that it can help her process things and things that are going on and all of that. And so as this is going on, she's like explaining, like, no, like, you can't be doing this. Like, what if Ethan saw? And then, of course, did I just say course, like TH? Of course, Ethan comes out. And yeah, so Ethan comes out and that all goes down. Julie's having a hard time coming to terms with everything. And in the middle of this, Ethan asks Tabitha if Victor is essentially his brother now, considering that she was Miranda. So in technically some weird astral sense, yes, that makes him Victor's brother. It's a very interesting sort of dynamic. But Julie then goes on to explain that it's not real. And she tells Tabitha that she thinks, Julie's like, I know you guys think you discovered some big you've unlocked some big mystery about this place, but it's not real. And this place doesn't give people real. It gives fucked up and twisted ideas. And Tabitha tries her best to assure Julie that if she had any doubt in her mind at all about anything, that she wouldn't have said a word of it. And then she explains that Jade and Boyd wouldn't be telling everyone at Colony House. And Julie gets pretty pissed about this, and she's shocked that they told everyone at Colony House. And she basically just like storms off, and Tabitha is like, I need to make sure you're okay. And Julie's like, I'm not okay, but I'm not going to hurt myself. Like, if that's what you're asking. And then she walks off. And I love moments like that. I really do. I enjoy when we get things like that. It felt human. It felt real. I mean, not that any of us have ever been in a situation like Julie has, but it felt like real people talking. And I think this show does a really good job at moments like that, where you get people talking. That's one of the things I love about this. But again, this is what I was talking about earlier. Right as Julie walks away, then comes the fucking story. Now we're getting blue-balled here, right? Julie walks away right as Victor comes in and says, I need to find out more about the man in yellow. That means I have to do something scary. Will you please come with me? Tabitha looks off to see if Julie's there. Of course, she's not for this conversation. She's fucking seen the man in yellow. She could corroborate with him. But no, we don't get that. That is frustrating to me. I'd have to, in my whole heart, I'd have to imagine that that's because they're saving that moment of this revelation with Julie finding out, because I don't think we've seen the end of her story walking. I don't think. We definitely haven't, because we know for a fact in season 3, episode 10, she story walks. So I don't know, there is that at least, but it is frustrating to me that as we are getting literal people in a room talking about things, finally, we're getting an important thing being completely missed. That definitely bothers me a little bit. It's not the end of the world or anything like that, but whatever. After this, we cut back and it's Boyd, Kenny, and Jade, and they're in a room inside Colony House plotting out how they're going to go through the tunnels to find the bones, which was the biggest plot point of what they were all talking about at Colony House. And Boyd's explaining that they only have one shot at this, so they need to ask as many questions as they can and think of as many things as they can, and then ask them again and again. And Boyd's saying he's asking besides the 3 of them who are in this room, who else has been in the tunnels, and then they recount that Victor and Tabitha have definitely been in there for sure. And Boyd proposes that they need a map and sketch so that they could lay out the tunnel system. He wants to know every single entrance and every exit of the chamber, how long they need to dig, and then how not to get themselves killed, which is definitely a bit of a stretch. But Boyd tells them to talk to Randall to get as much intel as they can about the monsters, because Randall spent a lot of time in the Grand Rapids bus, RV, whatever you call it. So he's seen their patterns. He's seen how many of them come out of the woods. woods, where they go, what they do, just to like try to get the sense of like the layout, the lay of the land, and all of that stuff, because he wants to know exactly what they're dealing with and try to get a head count, because if those totems work, which we figure out later in the craziest moment ever, we figure out they don't work. But if they do work, we need to know how many we're going to kill. Anyway, after this, Jade then notices that Boyd's hand is doing the tremor thing, those Parkinson's tremors, and Jade asks about it, but Boyd says it's nothing, because he keeps putting this fucking thing off, which is very important. Not, like, he needs to address this shit. Anyway, he then goes on to explain Boyd that they need to do the smart and have to do it fast. And afterwards, we cut to Boyd, who is leaving Colony House, and he runs into Acosta. Knowledge comes out Acosta, as we know, who's sitting on a rock, and she's playing with that picture book thing, like the flip through thing. And then as he's walking by, he says, "Simpler times, huh? You know, like you simply can't blah, blah, blah." Anyway, and Acosta says, she like calls him out, saying that the work that she had him do wasn't busy work. Like, it wasn't just busy work, it was for a purpose. And Boyd says, no, it wasn't. And he was hoping that she might find answers that are useful about Tabitha and Jade. And Acosta's having a hard time with this, insinuating how crazy it is that they're talking about reincarnation. And Boyd just literally says, yeah, that's what we're talking about, which is, it's like assuring, like, yeah, this is fucking crazy shit, but this is real shit. Like, this is exactly what's going on. And Acosta explains that if they're going down into the tunnels, that they'll need help. Boyd says back to her that her and him are going to talk about that when the time comes to it, but right now, he needs her back in that basement, putting on her cop skills, because they need a whole team down there, and they need to separate with one team at the diner, in the storage room there, and one team in the basement of Colony House to look for anything about Jade and Tabitha, but more importantly, anything that they could say about this man in yellow. And Acosta says, Acosta, what the fuck? Knowledge comes out Acosta. Anyway, Jesus, that's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, Acosta says, are you sure you're not looking for something to keep everyone's mind off of how fucking crazy she is? And Boyd explains that, like, if we're going to do this, we need to know exactly what is waiting for us out there. And then Acosta starts writing down in her notebook, saying, is that all you can give me, a man in a yellow suit? And Boyd just explains, we know he was here in the late 70s when Victor was a kid, because that's literally all they have. And Acosta even acknowledges that. She's like, that's a start, I guess. Like, and then she walks off to gather people to go to the to like form a team, and she tosses Boyd that picture book and says simpler times as she walks away. Before I cut to like where that goes to, I just want to say again, I feel like I've been saying it in these breakdowns, I'm really glad that this is where they're going with Acosta, because in the beginning of the season I was definitely really skeptical about her character and thought they were just setting her to just be honestly unlikable, and I didn't think that was right. Because one, why would you do Randall all over again in the beginning, where Randall was hard to come to terms with? And two, they can't just be making her that way for no reason. With that strong of a figure, with her being a cop, which is a perfect parallel to Abby, you can't just put her character to waste. And I'm glad that is exactly what we're getting. We're not getting her character going to waste. And I'm glad about that, because I said it before and I'll say it again. I love Samantha Brown. I think she is doing such a fantastic job with this role. The idea that her character was unlikable in the beginning kind of sucks, because like I think the performance there is so excellent and she's doing just such an incredible job, and there's so much potential for that character. So I was worried about that going into the season, and I'm glad we're finally getting some actual like content out of her that seems very purposeful, and it's going somewhere, and I can't wait to see where that goes. But anyway, after this, we cut to Boyd. He's sitting inside Colony House outside of Donna's room and grabs the thing, like the picture book thing that goes to your eyes that Acosta was playing with, and puts it to his eyes. And I'm going to break this down. I took extensive notes on this just about each shot we get, and a lot of them involve water. So the first picture is a picture of a lake by snow-capped mountains, and there's some sunflowers around it or whatever, those yellow flower things that we all used to pick up in the grass when we were kids. That's the first one. And then the second picture is another water scene. It's beach with a mountain in the distance, almost like it's from Hawaii or California. By the way, the only reason I'm mentioning these things is because I do find it interesting, the pictures that we get. The pictures that we get, I think, tell a story. I don't know what that story is, but I took great notes of them, especially with this next one, because this next one, we have a picture which is of New York City. Specifically, it's on the Hudson Hudson River of the Statue of Liberty, and in the background you see the Twin Towers. So this picture was taken obviously before 2001, right? Anyway, after this, we cut to another picture, and this one is a picture of Boyd and Abby seemingly on their wedding day, and we get a young Harold, which is great to see. I love that. Anyway, but we get that interesting reveal. And then this one's not water. The next one, the fourth picture we get, is the pyramids in Egypt. And then after this is what I find really interesting. Maybe it's just because I'm a New York ride or die, you know what I mean? Maybe it has something to do with that. I lived in Jersey City for a while, so maybe it has something to do with that. But the fifth picture is back to New York City, but this time it's much later, much closer to present day. It's an aerial shot of the financial district with the One World Trade Center present, not the Twin Towers, the One World Trade Center, the new building, the main World Trade Center. Fun fact, I actually proposed to my fiance on the 102nd floor of that building, which is really cool. Anyway, I was like, oh my God, that's the place. Anyway, whatever. I'm geeking out a little bit, but it's just interesting because that was built in the last decade. She found this in the basement as belonging, so it's just very interesting to me. It's also interesting it's by the water. I know we got one that was the pyramids. I don't know. I just had to point that out. Afterwards, the sixth picture is back to the tropical island with water and palm trees. And then the seventh is the lake with the snow-capped mountains, the same that we got in the very first one. And I just find it interesting that it was that assortment of pictures, and a lot of them involved a body of water. I don't think that was a coincidence. And I don't know what it means, but I don't think it was a coincidence that we had two different versions of the financial district in New York City. I don't understand why. Maybe one day I will, but I just had to point that out. Anyway, afterwards, Christy comes outside and Boyd asks how she's doing, insinuating Donna, because Christy was coming out of Donna's room, and Christy says that she was fine, but Christy's being really short with Boyd. And essentially the general gist of how Donna's doing is she's fine. They can't do a CT scan or an MRI or anything like that, so it's really hard to actually tell, but I think she thinks that she's going to be okay. But then, as I said, Christy is notably short, and Boyd stops her, and Christy explains that you should have told that Boyd should have said something about Tabitha and Jade, and that they're all supposed to be in this together. And Boyd assures her that they are, and all of that stuff. And then Christy goes on to ask how Boyd is actually feeling, as far as the tremors, as far as the Parkinson's, as far as him hallucinating, and all of that stuff. And Boyd refuses all of it, saying everything's fine and there's no issues there. Christy obviously doesn't seem to believe him at all. And Christy then goes on to say, you got a lot of people that believe in you, that their lives depend on you, and she tells him to come in for an exam. Afterwards, Donna's awake in bed. We cut to Boyd going in. Donna's awake in bed, and this is why I love Donna. Boyd's like, how you feeling? And then she's like, better than you look. Maybe you should be the one lying here. And then she goes on to explain that she heard about the town meeting, and all of that. And obviously Donna is Donna-ing. She's very skeptical about this and thinks it's a bad idea. And she's obviously trying to be the sane one in all of this. So that's kind of where that all went. Anyway, Donna's all worried about the door in the basement and all of that stuff. And Boyd explains that they sealed it and they put a talisman on it just for that extra protection or whatever that means. And Donna then goes on to ask if they buried Roger yet. And Boyd explains that they barely had room by the church as it was. They were out of space because of all the dead people, so they need to find a new place. And because of that, Roger's still just sitting there rotting in the shed. Donna then goes on to say, you got any more good news to bring me? And Boyd says that he needs her to tell him everything that you can about those totems that she brought back from the settlement, the one that Tabitha used to kill the dolls. And Donna is asking why he wants to know, and Boyd explains that tonight he's going to try to kill one of those things. Donna righteously says that that's a fucking terrible idea. She says, let's say you actually kill one of those things. Apparently they don't even stay dead. Are you ready to risk another one of our people going through what Fatima just went through? Which is a very good point. And Boyd explains that what he wants is to keep his people safe in those tunnels. So let's deal with one problem at a time. After this, we cut to Acosta, who's recruiting people outside of Colony House. She's on the porch recruiting people, and she explains that Elgin is going to go with a team of, I think, 3 other people to do the storage room at the diner, and then the rest of them are going to do the basement of Colony House. And as this is going on, Boyd walks out with the totem, and Sophia, listening to Acosta, sees Boyd with the totem, and she looks concerned, but more or less annoyed and pissed off about this, and she goes and then walks off. And afterwards, we see Marielle, like right after the scene, we see Marielle in the shed looking at Roger's body with the one with the smile sewn and the button and all of that. And Christy walks in asking what she's doing in there. Marielle and her start talking about Roger and how every conversation was about gardening and all of that stuff. And Marielle then goes on to explain, because she's still upset about like what happened to her in a couple episodes prior. And she explains that her mom used to tell her that when people die, they just go somewhere else. And she didn't believe in heaven or hell. She just believed that death was just a transition to another place that we couldn't see from here. And she explains that it brought her a lot of comfort and all of that stuff. But then she looks down at Roger and says that Roger doesn't get to go to that place because he's still here and that they're all still here. And she explains to Christy that whatever they're all doing to find those bones, they all need to help. So she's clearly motivated and really disturbed by what she saw righteously, because what she saw righteously was concerning. 100 million, trillion, billion, gazillion %. After this, we see Boyd and Ellis, and they're talking and they're plotting out how they're going to try to kill one of those things. And Boyd's explaining that they have talismans in all the houses and all of the areas like the church, the station, all of that stuff. And there's all these exit points that they could go to. So they're basically plotting out one of them's going to run out, or Boyd's going to run out. He's going to go in and just immediately run to the sheriff's station. If that gets blocked off, he's going to like try all of those. As we see, that doesn't freaking work. But hey, good attempt, right? Good attempt. You know, you got to start somewhere, basically. But Boyd is really confident that these things, these things, they're going to ignore. They're used to like everyone staying inside and hiding, and that they're going to just not really think about it. So it's the last thing they're going to expect is to see one of these people running right at the monsters. And Boyd's confident that these totems can hurt him, or at least slow them down a little bit and make going into the tunnels a whole lot safer. And Ellis asks, again, as I mentioned, who is going to be in charge of doing this, and Boyd says it's him. As this is going on, this is when the episode gets so interesting. As this is going on, Henry knocks on Tabitha's door asking if anyone's home, and Henry just walks right in, saying that he needs to talk to Tabitha. And as he's walking through the house, he's looking through some drawers on the table, and as he's doing this, he's looking at drawings and stuff like that. I mean, not drawers. As he's doing this, he hears a medical device beeping, and then he looks over, and there's a fucking heart monitor medical device, like you're in a hospital bed, and then he looks down at his arm, and he's hooked up to it, and then it cuts to these flashing lights on his face, and he's all very confused, and then he snaps back into reality. And he, after all this is going on, he's super confused and just runs out of this house. We are going to talk about this later, but I do gotta say, I fucking love this. I fucking love this. I am all in on this, because this tells me that what happened with Sophia, what happened with her putting the blood in his water, is Sophia instilling doubt in Henry to make Henry go crazy and further dismantle this group. This is the fucking shit I love, but I love it more because this, where we're going with it, I know by the end of this episode, like, we see Victor, we're gonna get to it, I know we're gonna get to it, but it's just so exciting. Like, maybe we're gonna see Eloise. Like, I don't know, I'm over the moon about this. I think this is very interesting and very exciting. I can't wait to see where this goes at all. It's so awesome. We're going to come back around to it, because in the next scene, Tabitha, Ethan, and Victor, they're at the cars at the junkyard where Victor had moved all of the cars after the massacre. And then they're looking there to basically find any clues they can about the man in yellow. And Victor doesn't really know what those clues are when Ethan asks him, but Tabitha says that they should start with the trunk, and there's this whole big moment where they're going to open the trunk, and then it's just a fucking tire. Very... it's like funny. They play the score like, and then like nothing happens. Whatever. Anyway, Victor goes to the front of the car, and as he does, Tabitha sees Miranda's car in the distance, and she starts to kind of have flashbacks. Then we come back to Victor, who goes in the door of the man in yellow's car and finds a brown bag in the glove compartment. And when he opens it, he sees a collection of teeth, pulling back to when Sophia took the priest's tooth earlier on. So now we know for certain that this is fucking Dexter Morgan, except in the fucking demon version of it. He's collecting teeth, and he collects them of all the people he's killed. It's his trophy room. Jesus, Christmas cookies on a Monday morning. What the fuck? The fuck? Anyway. God. Anyway, we cut, after he reveals this, we cut back to Tabitha. She's looking inside of Miranda's car and has a flashback of when Miranda entered the town. And then Victor screams, saying that we have to go right now, explaining that he found the bag of teeth. And then, I love this, Victor explains that Ethan needs to see them because he needs to be prepared. Victor panics, as he's panicking, he says to Tabitha, "Are you really my mother?" And then he explains, like, "Don't you see? You came to town last time, you brought a boy and a girl, and the man in yellow showed up and everyone died, but not the boy. The boy lived and he grew up alone and afraid, and he wasn't prepared, and now you're here with a boy and girl again, and the man in yellow is back." And he's explaining that Ethan has to be prepared. And then Tabitha freaks out at Victor for this, telling him to stop it, and Ethan runs off because he got scared of all of this. And Tabitha says, "What is wrong with you?" to Victor, and chases after Ethan. And but Victor is 100% right. This is the same cycle repeating itself. And if they push too far, Tabitha's going to end up dead. Julie's going to end up dead. It's going to be Ethan. There's a reason there's only one kid in this town. My God, like, this is, like, to me, this is exactly where this is pointing. He's right. I don't know if that's what we're going to see. I have hope. Like, in my core, I have hope we're going to see this cycle break in this show. And that's what we're going to watch. I do have hope for that. Yet, like, yes, I know there's an argument that people want this to be a show where the people don't win, but this area has seen so much suffering. I think this show would be great. I'm confident that we're going to see these people win. But he is right to insinuate this, because all it takes is Tabitha and Jade fucking up once for this all to go south and sideways. And I could so see that happening, and he is so right, because there's only one boy. I don't know. Dude, I love Victor. He's really just really growing on. Not that I ever had a problem with him or anything like that, but this season, the way his arc has gone, I fucking love it. I'm loving every little detail of what we've gotten with him. I think it's fascinating. I really enjoy it for this reason. Anyway, after this, we cut to Boyd. He's in the post office looking at the totem, and then Sophia walks in behind him, and Boyd tells her to come in, and Sophia apologizes for bothering, and Boyd's like, "You're not a bother at all, whatever." And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time they've interacted, which is it feels like almost inorganic that this is the first time they're talking, and he doesn't have any alarms on by the way she's looking, because she looked creepy as shit. And I know Boyd would have no reason to think she's the man in yellow, but like, she is being sus. 100% she is being sus here. And anyway, Sophia brings up that going into the tunnels to dig up those bones, she brings all that up, and she's like, "Isn't that dangerous?" with a really concerned, angry look on her face. And Boyd's like, "Well, yeah, like, but it can also be the way to get home." And Sophia's like, "How?" like, freaking out. And Boyd says that they're not quite clear on that yet. Sophia goes on to say, like, "But those things that come out at night, people say they live in the tunnels." Boyd says that's right, and all of that. So Sophia goes like, "So if those bones are important, it's not like they're just going to let you go down there and take them." Boyd explains that that's the case, like, that's not true, like, that is true, but it turns out that they might have a new card to play, and like pointing to the totems. And Sophia looks extremely disturbed by that, and because Boyd explains, which is a crucial detail, Boyd explains to Sophia that he's going to try to kill one of them tonight with that totem. And she's like, "Really? Bitch, you better fucking not." That's what she's like. But she's definitely using this intel to do crazier and crazier stuff, man. It gets so good. Dude, it gets so good from here on out. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I want to get to the juicy stuff. But the next scene, Jade and Kenny, they're mapping out the tunnels. Jade explains that he's a more visual learner, so he can't just draw it. He has to actually map it out with items. And then he's bringing it back to that's how he started his company. That's how he founded his company. And he asks Kenny what Kenny did before here. And Jade guesses a ton of things. Jade guesses firefighter or manager at a retail store, and Kenny's like, why were those your first two guesses? And then Henry walks in, and Jade's like, what do you think Kenny was before he got here? Again, Henry's like, don't ask me, don't bother me, whatever. And Kenny then goes on to explain that he worked in youth sports, and Jade's like, oh, so you were a coach? And then he's like, no, you were an administrator. And Jade's like, Coach Kenny. I don't know why, but I just thought it was so funny how he got like so enthusiastic about it. Kenny gets all annoyed and like pissed off about it. And then Ellis walks in asking to speak with Kenny, so they go outside. And then that's kind of like where that goes. Right after this, we see Sophia starting to walk towards the farm. And then she goes through the gates where the animals are outside, and she starts looking through the chicken coop, and she's looking for eggs, which I find interesting. And then she starts fucking sniffing those eggs. I don't know if any of you would get that reference, whatever. She starts sniffing each one of those eggs, like, egg, no, not this one, not this one. And then she smells the right egg, I guess, and puts it in her pocket and just like waddles away. Okay, we are going to come to it, but in the moment when I was watching this, I was like, the fuck are you doing sniffing eggs, bro? What are you doing? We got an egg sniffer in the town now. Not just an imposter is sussy fucking baka, but we got an egg sniffer. Very interesting. And I don't think I've ever said that sentence before, or phrase before, sniffing eggs. Whatever. Anyway, after this, Julie's in the diner, and Elgin walks in with the team of people that he's, doing his excursion shit with, and he goes to have a word with Julie, so he sits down and he apologizes about her dad because they didn't have a chance to talk about it. And then Julie asks about his eye and all of this stuff, and then Julie goes on to explain, like, I guess you heard about my mom, and she thinks she thinks all this is real, and that scares the shit out of her. And Elgin questions it, saying, and she says, because every time someone has like feelings that they have a purpose in this place or anything like that, and they discover the truth, somebody always ends up dead. And Elgin explains that there has to be a truth here, that there just has to be. And Julie seems to think, why can't this place just be some fucked up cruelty that exists for no other reason to do exactly what it's doing? And then like they continue to have this conversation, but Elgin's whole general point is that they're being tested, and that there's a truth behind all of this. And he brings up a good point. He basically explains, he's like, you know how this place wins? It's by throwing so many lies at you that you don't believe the truth when it's staring at you right in the face. And I think that is exactly what the Grand Gulagog and the Flight of the Cromonocle are. I think the answers to this place are literally there, and they're just cock blocking that story every time. Like when Tabitha comes into the Grand Rapids bus, when they're on it reading it, they just throw the books. Like why? Why hide that from her? I don't know. I get it. It's because like, oh my God, you went into the house. Like I get it. There's like a safety concern there and all of that shit. But like again, this kind of goes back to the point of people being in a room talking. The answers are right there. Julie has this insane theory about this place that kind of ended up not going anywhere, but the theory is very valid and very real. The answers are right there. Even if you didn't get it right when you story walked and you saw the massacre, doesn't mean you're not going to get it right again. You know what I mean? Whatever. Anyway, after this, Henry and Jade are at the bar, and Henry explains that it's not right what Jade's doing, like filling with people's heads with nonsense and all of that stuff. And Jade asks if he talked to Tabitha, and Henry says he's like, have you talked to the woman who claimed to be the reincarnation of my dead wife? No, I haven't had the chance. And that he didn't stop by after and all of that stuff. Jade starts replying. This is when it gets so fucking good. Jade starts replying, and then when it does, a flashlight comes on, when he does, a flashlight comes on Henry's face, and then it cuts to him in a hospital bed, and a doctor is saying he's back, and as it zooms out, he is in a full-on hospital bed, and there's a doctor in there saying, blink twice if you hear me, and he starts blinking, and then a normal, real-world Victor, like a real Victor, walks up to him, a totally normal, not like damaged one, walks up to him saying like, Dad, hi, Dad, like, stay with me, all this stuff. And then it cuts back to the reality with Jim snapping his fingers and Jade's asking what just happened and Henry runs off spooked. Oh my God, I love this. Even if, look, again, I don't think, personally, I don't believe that this is like all a dream. I refuse to, and I know the writers have said this story isn't all a dream and it's not purgatory. So I know there's no way that is what we're getting, and it definitely has to do with the blood that Sophia put in the water and all of that stuff. But man, I just kind of want to swim in this story a little bit. That's so interesting to see Victor normal. I love that. I love that. And this almost had a slight feeling in my head of Lost. I never finished Lost. I know a lot of you guys ask me to watch Lost and all that stuff, but the way this flashback happened and the way we saw Victor in a normal environment, not in this chaos, just brought me back to Lost for a minute. It felt like a really nice homage, I guess you could say, or callback to it, and I just loved it. I really enjoyed it for that reason, but it's also exciting because I'm assuming we're going to get more of this because to me, this is pointing out that he's just going to go further and further mad, and it's going to lead to him getting killed. I really do genuinely think that's where it's going to go. And need I remind you that this is coming from a place just based off of this episode alone. These are just my feelings on this moment from what I saw, like just reacting to that. I just have to remind you of that. But anyway, after this, 21, the next scene, you know what's crazy? I write all my scenes down. I say scene, when I cover these breakdowns, I do like scene 1 to blank, like scene 1, this happened, scene 2. So I just said scene 21. So I just gave away my little secret. For what it's worth, let me give you a little bit of inside baseball for a minute here. I do detailed notes, and maybe at the end of the season, I will like give you guys my notes or whatever. The way I've done these breakdowns is I watch the episode once as a fan, then I watch it and take extremely detailed notes of every scene. So right now, you're seeing me in this breakdown. I'm reading off of, it may not look like it, but I'm reading a teleprompter which has each scene in it. I'm not reading a script, but I am reading like bulleted points, very detailed bulleted points of each scene. So that's why I said 21. Sorry to go on a quick little tangent here. But anyway, after this, Sarah is talking to Boyd, offering to be the one to go outside. But Boyd's really there, just basically explaining to Sarah like that if he needs to run to her house, that's one of the exit paths that he can go down to like go to her house and all of that stuff. And Sarah keeps insisting that she'll go for Boyd because she killed her brother and almost killed Ethan and all of that stuff. But Boyd's basically like, we're going to need you down in the tunnels. We'll talk then, but I don't want you to do this. Anyway, after this, Sophia goes to the shed where she sees where Roger is. She takes off the tarp and then starts talking in fucking pig Latin or whatever it is to the egg and then cracks it on his chest. And then she whispers in his ear, "It's time to play." And then the camera zooms in on Roger and it's overlaid with Boyd ringing the bell to tell everyone to go inside as dusk is approaching. This is when the episode gets so fucking good. Oh my God. After this, Donna walks out of her bedroom. Fatima stops. So this is honestly just padding. I don't even want to really address it. Donna's just annoyed that she can't get up and go. And Fatima's like talking her down. The only notable thing is I do find it interesting that Donna says to Fatima here, like, I've never seen this attitude from you or anything like that. Whatever. All of this is, as this is going on, they're closing the colony house doors, like the guy who's in charge of closing the doors, closing them, and Sophia walks in, and she's staying there for the night. She doesn't normally stay there, so they're like, you don't normally stay here, and she just explains that she's scared of the totem thing or whatever. Good excuse. Anyway, after this, Boyd, Kenny, Ellis, they're all in the post office, saying that it's time to get ready, and when they go inside, then they go inside, and Ellis and Kenny stop Boyd and explain that he can't be the one going out there because he's the main guy. He needs to keep everyone in order. And righteously, Kenny is the number 2. Not the poop, but the number 2 in line for succession for him. So, like, if anyone should go, it should be Kenny, not the one in charge of this town that could, like, really dismantle this town. Boyd's freaking out about this. And as he's freaking out, his Parkinson's tremors start acting up. And they basically use that to basically say, like, Ellis is like, Dad, you are not in a good You're not in a good position with this Parkinson's. It's your condition. You can't do this. And like, what if your leg gives out and all of that stuff? They essentially get Kenny to be the one to go. And once it's decided, the monsters start coming out because it's now dark and it's time for Kenny to go out. So he's like prepping to go and all of that stuff. Boyd reminds him of all the escape routes and what they could do. And that there's everyone in the house waiting to bring him in if there's a problem. So they're all ready and there's talismans everywhere and Kenny understands. And then we cut, before it gets really real, we cut to Sophia in her bedroom, sitting on the bed doing another pig Latin satanic ritual shit that as she does. And as she does this, Roger wakes up, feels his face, starts freaking out, and then rips his face off, rips it through, screaming as he does it, and pulls the fucking thing straight off. Oh my God. Oh, this is so crazy. And then after this, Kenny is ready to go outside, so he goes outside, and as he does, he goes into the middle, he runs right up to the milkman one, stabs him, and then as he stabs him, the milkman guy starts screaming like so funny. He's like, ah! I don't know why, I just found the screaming so funny. And as this is going on, as he's screaming like repeatedly, he notices that some of the monsters around him start blocking off the doors. And then the funny screaming, which you could tell he was doing in a mocking way, just ends. He's like, nah, just kidding. I thought that was crazy. And then as he's doing it, the old lady, the creepy one, is like waving at the door, really creepy. And then he starts to pull it out of the chest. Like the milkman starts to pull the totem out of the chest. The monsters surround him even further, and the milkman, he says that this isn't going very well, is it? So so the only option, not Boyd, Kenny's only option is to go run to the Grand Rapids bus, because every exit at this point is or every exit route he had is now blocked off, and he's circled. So he only has one option: to sprint as hard as he can. So then he sprints to the bus and goes inside, and as he does, Smiley walks in. Oh my God, dude, I've seen this episode at least 3 times now in prep for this video, and every time I've seen it, I'm like, bro, I'm like, fuck, I freak out, like forgetting what happens next. I'm like, dude, I loved this scene. So then in doing so, Fatima, who's back working on her golem, feels Smiley and she senses him and visually sees that he is about to kill Kenny. Oh my God. Oh, dude, I fucking love this. Kenny runs to the back of the bus and Smiley comes in and corners him. So Kenny's only option is to go to the roof. There's the roof entrance. So he goes up to the roof, and Fatima is freaking out, terrified, witnessing all of this through Smiley's eyes, knowing she can't do anything about it. She could just see it. Kenny gets up on the roof, and as he looks down, he sees all of the monsters surrounding him. And then Smiley comes up, he climbs up and says, I think you have a problem, Kenny. Just think the way he talks is funny. And it cuts to Fatima again, who is absolutely terrified. And then Smiley continues saying that he killed his father and that he made such funny noises. Do you make funny noises? And then Smiley starts turning into the monster and is about to kill Kenny. And as he does, Fatima, sensing this, screams stop, like at the top of her lungs, which causes Smiley to stop. Oh my God. She has fucking superpowers, bro. What the fuck? All of this time, look, I don't want to go off on too much of a thing like here. I don't want to I'm not saying this too negatively, but I do think a lot of this season up to this point, whenever we cut to Fatima, it really almost did feel like padding that it wasn't going anywhere, because it was just her building a monster. And what does that mean? What does that do? Was it the golem that did the work? Was it because she created that? Or was it because of her familial ties to Smiley now? Whatever it is, man, this finally, all of the stuff for her character this season built up to something good. She saved Kenny's life. And right there, he springs into action, sprinting at Smiley and pushing him off of the Grand Rapids bus, falling to the ground below. And then Kenny gets inside the bus, closes the door, seals it with the talisman, and he's safe. And then they cut to Fatima, which I find this really interesting. Fatima was standing, I think, when she said stop. After Smiley gets pushed off the bus, she then is on the ground like she just fell over too. And she's shocked and terrified. Oh my God. Dude, that scene was insane. That was one of my favorite scenes of the whole show. I fucking loved that sequence. It was awesome. Felt like a fucking superhero movie for a minute. I was like, God damn. What the fuck? Anyway, right after this, immediately after this, we hear the bells ringing aggressively inside Colony House, which wakes up the residents, and Roger's body, with the face ripped off, breaks through the front doors, proving that talismans don't work on him. And everyone in the Colony House is screaming. Roger then goes up to Patty, about to kill her, and then Elgin takes the totem and stabs Roger, killing him. And Patty's freaking out like, what the fuck just happened? As everyone is screaming, now the town is fully dismantled, which I find so fucking fascinating. And as we see everyone in the town dismantled, freaking the fuck out, we cut to Sophia, who is up the stairs looking down at everyone in unrest, and she is smiling, and this is how the episode ends. Jesus fucking Christ, man. This was one of my favorite episodes of the whole show. I had so much fun with this episode. And if I see anyone out here saying that this show is not doing the things they want it to do, I don't know what you're talking about, man. This show is not only answering a lot of questions, but giving us like these chaotic moments, which I love. Yes, it may not be perfect. Yes, it may have its idiosyncrasies or moments or things that we still don't know. But, oh my God, I loved this. I had so much fun with this episode again. I know I said that already, but this just opens so many new possibilities and doors. And now this is leading to what makes sense in the Man in Yellow's favorite part. The town can't trust the talismans anymore. The talismans don't work because Roger, a dead man, came back to life, ripped apart his face, and broke in through the doors. So everything they thought was safe about this town is not safe. Oh, dude, what a good way to end this. We got a lot of theories this week for this episode, man, because there is just so much content here to talk about. I've been going for, at least recording, for 58 minutes, and my throat hurts from talking this much because I've only cut 3 times to burp. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I loved this episode. I can't say it enough. And I would love to bring this conversation to you guys. How'd you feel about it? Do you have the same vibes? Did you not like where this went? I need to know every bit of it from you down there. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. This is a long one, probably the longest I've done. And again, until the next one, I will talk to you later. Peace out.